2 seconds too late.
Et bon, le fait qu'il connaît bien le caucus, évidemment, qu'il connaît les membres de la députation, et qui a déjà siégé au cabinet. Donc, je pense que pour Mark, pour M. Carney, c'était quelque chose d'important.
Mais est-ce qu'il peut demeurer député en même temps? Je veux dire, député, c'est un job à temps plein aussi?
Bien, je ne sais pas. Il faut poser la question à M. Mendicino en termes de ce qu'il va faire si cette fonction-là de chef de cabinet prend toute son importance. Je lui ai parlé 2 minutes tout à l'heure, alors je ne peux pas vraiment répondre à sa place.
Est-ce qu'on sait s'il se représente à l'élection ou...
Honnêtement, je ne suis pas certain. Donc, il faudrait vraiment lui poser la question.
Merci beaucoup.
We have been talking with the Americans for quite some time about the Columbia River Treaty between Environment Canada, Global Affairs, and there's another department that's been involved in those conversations. It's a long treaty that we've had with the United States, and we were already having discussions with them. The treaty needs to be, we need to modernize it at given moments. So those conversations are already happening.
Is it a serious concern, though, about how Trump is looking at taking it over?
Well, there are advantages to both parties to this treaty. If President Trump would want to put an end to it, there would be repercussions in the United States. I think this needs to be explained to the White House administration. There are benefits to the Americans. There are benefits to Canadians. It's been a mutually beneficial agreement for a very long time.
Like what? Like you say, repercussions. Like what?
For example, on water management. To ensure that on both sides of the borders we can manage the way insofar that we can minimize the risk of flooding, for example, which can happen on the Canadian side, which has happened before, but it can also happen on the American side as well.
Sur la tarification du carbone, l'annulation de la partie pour les consommateurs,
Oui.
qui se fait chez les consommateurs, est-ce que cette annulation-là peut être faite?
Good welcome. It was an introduction. He did very well. He was very well received. Obviously, there's a lot of excitement. This is his first caucus meeting, and I think we're very, very excited at the prospects of really fighting Trump and making sure that Canada is represented at the international stage.
What did he tell caucus members? Just give us a general sense.
I can't really go into what he says, obviously, but it was an introductory meeting. He was, good-humored. He was witty. He spoke to everyone. He listened to the regional caucus reports, and he heard from caucus members. He was only there for a brief period of time, just given a lot happening today. But it was a really good introduction to caucus.
How long did he address caucus for?
Well, you saw him in and out, right? About half an hour. He's there for about half an hour.
How long
Marco Mendicino as his chief of staff in the transition. Is that a good choice? The Conservatives are already attacking him for this.
Well, look, I will leave that to the decision that Mr. Carney made. Like Marco Mendicino has served Canada in so many different capacities. He's a strong caucus member, and I believe he has a lot to offer. I think what's key is that this role is transitional, and he has good relations both on the current administration as well as the incoming administration. So I believe it'll be a good bridge between the two. What's important is that we have a seamless transition over the next several weeks to ensure that the Canadians are well served. Without. Do you expect the state cabinet? Well, I think those decisions will be made by Mr. Carney. I have been absolutely fortunate to serve this country, and I will continue to serve in any capacity I can.
Just about Mr. Mendicino, what do you mean by it's transitional? That it's have to resign as MP?
As current Indigenous Relations Minister?
I had a great time, and I really enjoyed working and advancing reconciliation. As you know, we completed a number of very important things over the last 1.5 years, and it's been an absolute honor and a privilege to serve. And it's one of those moments in history, for example, Haida Gwaii, recognizing Aboriginal title in Haida Gwaii was super important. Things like revenue sharing with the Musqueam, a number of modern treaties. So I think we've done some very important transformational work, but also intergenerational work to ensure that reconciliation is on the right track.
But would you
Thank
accept this job again if you were asked to
This
stay
has
on?
been an absolute honor to serve in this role, and I'm very fortunate to have served as the Minister of Crown and Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs. Thank you.
You know, and I know that. I know.
Tell you go on chief of staff instead, so I'm not running. Like, how did that conversation go?
No, I think it was clear that it was to be kept relatively quiet until the announcement. But I mean, like, look, he's an awesome friend, so I'm thrilled for him.
Would you like to see Mr. Carney get rid of the consumer carbon tax before the federal election is called?
Yes, I think so. It's just become a huge distraction, and unfortunately, sucks up all the oxygen in the room and the conversation. There's other ways that we can reduce emissions and fight climate change that aren't so divisive and toxic.
And how can you do that without Parliament coming back?
I'll leave that up to the Minister of Finance and the Minister of the Environment. I think it's very possible. It shouldn't, won't go up on April 1st. In short order, the consumer carbon tax will be removed from other fuels as well. My concern, as somebody that is concerned about vulnerable people, is that students and seniors and young people and families depend on the rebate. So we want to make sure that we are there for families.
And would that rebate still come into effect? I guess not, if it's the consumer.
If they're not collecting the carbon tax, it's a rebate.
Yeah.
So if they're not collecting the price on pollution, then no, they wouldn't be getting the rebate. But I know that those transfers that the government makes, whether it's the HST refund or the rebate, Canada Child Benefit, Guaranteed Income Supplement, Canada Workers Benefit, these benefits really make a positive impact in people's lives. People depend on them. I recently published a calendar in January as a Member of Parliament for Milton, and I included all the OAS dates and the GIS dates in that paper calendar, and I had 4 seniors come up to me one day and say, hey, I got your calendar, and I'm really grateful to know what date that direct deposit is going to happen, because I plan my shopping around it. And so if those, the Canada Carbon Rebate is just the same thing. So we're past it, and that's fine. But we're also going to look for other ways to support Canadians and to make sure that that we're fighting climate change and reducing our emissions all at the same time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
How are you feeling today after the race?
Tired, but good.
The divide right now between Premier Ford and Smith.
Well, look, I mean, we have had lots of conversations at the First Minister's table around a common approach at the federal level. Provinces obviously have taken slightly different approaches within their own areas of jurisdiction. BC's ban on alcohol is a little different than Ontario's ban on alcohol. And so I don't think that provinces taking slightly different measures is necessarily a bad thing. I know that Premier Smith and Premier Ford are talking regularly, so I'm not concerned about
But
it.
it's not a small difference. I mean, a tariff on electricity exports, it's quite a big decision. What do you think about that? I think it's a good move.
Well, look, I think Premier Ford has played a very constructive role in this whole conversation. There are times where subnational governments can be taking a stronger position perhaps than the national government that deals every day with the U.S. administration. I think, as I say, Premier Ford has played a very constructive role. Obviously, the focus for us is on actually getting the tariffs off, and that's the conversations I am having.
You don't seem thrilled about it. You don't seem thrilled. You don't seem thrilled.
Well, look, I think that we do need to take steps. That's why Canada has retaliated. I also think, though, it's important that we are measured about how we respond, such that that we are, we are not interested in escalating this fight. We are interested in finding pathways through this to get the tariffs removed. I respect the work that Doug Ford is doing, but from the federal perspective, we've done the retaliation that we're going to do at this point in time, and we're going to see what happens on April 2nd.
Do you see this as escalation? You say you don't want it to escalate. Do you see this move as escalation?
I don't think it's necessarily escalation, and I respect the fact that this is within Premier Ford's jurisdiction. But as I say, at the federal level, we have made a decision that we're actually going after products that are produced in the United States that are actually sold in significant quantities here. So, thank you.